and blessed unity with the L-O-V-E. Love is the solution, so set your love free with the L-O-V-E. Further evolution and blessed unity.
Good morning, self-lovers. Welcome to the Self-Love Show. I'm your co-host, Dawn Light, with my beautiful sister here, Trish Wright, my other co-host. And in case you're new to the show, thank you for tuning in today. This is so exciting. We have a great guest I'm going to introduce in one moment. But in case you don't know, we have a YouTube channel, and we really want to promote that we have such an amazing plethora of 2 years or more worth of videos that you can tune into, because self-love has a wide spectrum of how that looks. And so we really like to cover all topics around self-love and really give you a wide net to connect to. And if you know somebody that's struggling, you can go back in the YouTube channel and really see, like, oh wow, I really need to send this to my friend to support them, because this is a free resource to really explore all the modalities and all the ways we can really further our evolution and our consciousness of growing our self-love, and which is loving in general and connection to source. So who doesn't want more juicy self-love in their life, right? Yes, twinkle to that. All right. So without further ado, we have an amazing guest who's a sister of mine. I'm so proud of her and honored to introduce you today. So Alyra is my beautiful sister, and I'm going to read a little bit of her bio right now. So self-expression through song can be a doorway to our divine voice. When our human form is struggling to figure it all out, singing, writing, and creating songs is a fun, explorative way to get into our consciousness and examine our belief systems. Some of these can be very outdated belief systems that are no longer serving us. And one of the most important pieces of the creative process is allowing ourselves to freely express all our emotions in their raw, unedited form. Emotions are energy in motion. And if we hold on to anger, sadness, resentment, the energy has nowhere to go and can take root in our bodies, which has many ways of creating disease and can form there. Music has a way of hitting the release valve on these stored emotions and can allow us to create space for more healthy and empowering emotions if we choose. Beautiful. Alyra's journey with music has been inextricably linked to her study of the healing arts of yoga, Ayurveda, body work, and her own journey of healing. After reaching rock bottom at 19 and feeling very disillusioned by society, it was a rediscovery of her passion for music that brought her back to life. She now shares her passion for healing and transformation through one-on-one coaching, workshops, retreats, and live performances. Named after the constellation Lyra, Alyra Rose is herself a constellation of creation. She is a lifelong student of self-expression through the arts and a servant of the muse and muses. She has performed and played with artists such as Pamela Parker, Gina Renee, Sirens of Soul, Sharon Shannon of Ireland, and many others. She also has a musical project with her dear sister Allison Miller called Mirror Pool. Her latest undertaking is learning how to record and produce her own music. She has hundreds of songs and is steadily working towards releasing them. Her latest track, Divine, is her self-produced song and can be found on all platforms. Wow, congratulations. Oh my God.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah. I'm going to start us off with a question. Am I going to start us off with a question? I'm like, I'm just feeling in my heart, like, am I?
Yeah.
So all right, where I really want to go is let's talk about how we come to places where we're not self-expressed. I just want to share a little bit is that, in Dawn Light's course last night, there was a lot of powerful movement around this, is like finding our voice, finding our expression, and how long that journey has taken. And in the self-expression and being able to share your own personal song, I'd love to hear a little bit about what all of three of us feel is like, oh wow, we're where did we learn not to be self-expressed? Where did we learn not to be ourselves? Where did we, like, how did you, as a personal story, learn those things?
Mm.
We'll start with the negatives and then we'll move into a positive.
Yeah, good question. Well, I think like many of us, our first environment shapes our reality in a way, and the first 7 years of our lives really kind of shapes us as a human, right? And then we spend the rest of our life trying to recover. Hopefully not. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of our home dynamics for me is like my home dynamic, and so much you know, what's been passed down intergenerationally of people not knowing how to deal with their emotions, and coming from generations where they were just trying to survive, right? And like I feel like luckily our generation, we have more time and space to even think and reflect and like kind of process our emotions, like more vocabulary and space. But I don't know how it is for you, but I know that when I'm like relating to my parents sometimes, or like elders, it's like sometimes there's not even awareness around like emotional maturity in a way. And so yeah, I think that just we're mirrors for each other, uh, growing up, and just mirroring my environment of not knowing how to express in a healthy way, and just suppress and being overwhelmed by certain dynamics, and then just shutting down. And I think we all have a different coping mechanism for what happens. Some of us maybe get blown open, and some people just shut down. And for me, like that was how I could cope in my world, was just to shut down and kind of numb myself, actually, I think.
Mhm.
And then I think it built up over time, and but then I found ways to just connect to my own self. It's like my only safe space was my creativity, to be fully expressed. It wasn't out in the world or with people that I love and loved me.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was, I think, for me.
Well, you're speaking such honesty around your experience, and I appreciate that because what you're saying is so valid for all of us, right? Our immediate, family unit really imprint us, and
Mhm.
whatever happens, and sometimes it's really wildly expressed things, or a relationship of very cold emotion, even for some people, right? And so
Mhm.
it really forms how we relate to ourselves and the world. And so I shared a very similar dynamic to you. There was so much confusion and outward, like really intensity coming from one of my parents, my father, that I learned to immediately, like, there was no voice, there was no expression. The moment I had an ounce of expression, it got stifled by, like it was too much. Sit down, be quiet, like all of that. I was told I was too much. And
Mhm.
a lot of energy as a young one, and I still do. And so that really showed me that it wasn't safe to express, and so I kept it in for so long. And then I would have moments where I would just be fully expressed because I was an artist, and I loved, just like you, I found my way through the arts. I like was guided to the arts. I was in art classes, and basically anything artistry, I was like drawn there because I could see that it was a sanctuary for me to really delve into like the unresolved, what the f is all that about, and that was my first landing place of safety also, is in the arts. And and so I'm so grateful to hear your sharing about that. And how many of our viewers out there was that your experience too, where you found a solace and a safety and a place of connection to self in art?
Totally.
Um, I think I think that our stories, like my story, is very similar. I think that our stories are really relatable to a lot of people. not like, I mean, the idea that you had a home that was really fostering your expression or fostering your curiosity or desires wasn't that likely. Our culture rewards you for conformity. It rewards you with finances or safety or safety or and it spoon feeds you this idea that if you do these things, if you get a job and you go to school and you do these things, that you will get something. Unfortunately, the whole thing is a little not exactly that way. and and so when our grandparents or our great grandparents learned how to conform to society, this goes so far back, right? That when you learn how to not get your head chopped off because you didn't say something against the king, then that gets passed down and gets passed down and gets passed down. And so when we're coming to, people that we've known in our lives, in our family structure, that either we're still living when we were children, that also gets passed down. This idea that if you have to keep quiet some of your authentic, truest expression. And, it becomes this, I'm protecting you by stifling your true voice. Like, you can't just say that to men, or you have to please him to keep him, or whatever the story is that you were taught, because I'm sure that we all have similar and different stories, and I'm curious about what stories that our viewers and our listeners have been taught around that. It's like, that's part of what I'm dissolving in my life right now, is that I did have this family structure that my mother had her beliefs and that she impressed on me, and my father had his beliefs and impressed them on me. And now, like, kind of, what did you call it? Like, I'm kind of defiltering those pieces, but also looking at the social pieces of that, the social programs of that, of like femininity. It's like, what does that look like? How do I still attract the people that I want to attract without playing into
the roles?
The roles. I'm just like giving the example because, and so how do I live in the world and not have to work a job where my manager is abusive or degrading, or like, how do those things happen? So self-expression in my brain kind of looks like a radical act of activism. It's like, when you are self-expressed, when you are honest and true to yourself, that is a pretty radical act in the world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hallelujah. Yeah, I want to clarify. I do feel like my creativity was nurtured, and my father has been like an incredible angel in my life. Just fully like follow your bliss. Like, but like, yeah, other dynamics in my family and society, and then, oh, what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, but I love what you said. It's like, that is the radical activism, when we connect to our truth, because from there, everything can happen.
Mm-hmm. I was also going to say, you brought up a really powerful point, around mentioning the manager and, the person that has the manager that's abusive. I find that when we have certain situations like that, we'll use that as an example, come into our sphere, that is our curriculum at the time. And it's connected to things from our past that are unresolved. And it's an opportunity to clean and clear that finally from past unresolved material in the consciousness, in the unconscious, that you've carried that needs to be resolved. And so spirit or creator, whatever you want to call it, is creating the perfect scenario for you to have an awakening to choose self, right? And so I love using that example. I really wanted to speak to that because I know there's so much healing going on the earth right now, and it comes in all kinds of shapes, sizes, and forms for everyone. And if you're having a hard time, just really keep leaning in and asking your soul to guide you through it and to really help you make the highest and best choices and to choose yourself, because it's an opportunity to really learn to live into your authenticity and to lay down the patterns for good.
Yes. Well, it's the anything that stimulates feeling you have an opportunity to look at the deeper your beliefs or your wants or your values that are stimulating that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been fired from many jobs because I was like, wow, I don't really like the way that you treat your employees. That thing that you said was racist or sexist. And they're like, oh, is that how you feel? And I'm like, well, yes. And they're like, okay, bye. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And
Wow.
now, I mean, it's just, the dollar isn't worth that much of my soul, to be really honest.
To be treated not acceptable.
It's not acceptable. So, yeah, and I don't want to participate in systems of where people are playing out unconscious power dynamic roles. Like if he was like, yeah, I want to be a jerk and I want to have this power over you, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, now that I know, I can participate consciously, you know? Do I still want that? No, probably not. But it's more like, okay, we're playing out this same system, even though this company is claiming to be, you know, the values are this. And I'm like, no, you know. So now when I actively align myself with someone, whether it's Don Light or Scott Katamis, or, you know, I have an interview coming up that I really love this person, I'm aligning to their values, and not just the values that they're sharing, but the values that they are walking. Because sometimes our words can be like, I want this, and we're not actually walking those values yet. But we're speaking into it and walking towards that. But that's fine. It's like, I want to walk with people who are walking their values. And it's coming back to, just to come back to the conversation about the cognitive dissonance of not living your truth. And what I mean by that is this idea of like, you know, for everyone listening and watching, like, have you ever had the experience where you're like, something's just not right? Like, I love doing my art. It could be any whatever, like, I just want to expand the like expression of what art looks like. Whatever delights you, whether it's dance or song or painting or acting or creating like sensual containers for people, or God knows what it could be. That when you're like delighted by that and you're living for that moment, then there's a lot of other pieces in your life where there's something amiss, that there's like maybe some codependency playing out in your relationship and you're like, I don't feel aligned or alive, or maybe there's some degradations in your workplace, or maybe there's, you know, like there's just like a lot of different places and you're like, why do I feel so torn? Like that right there is also, as Dawn said, is an opportunity for your curriculum to arise so that you can look at it, so that you can live to your fullest self-expression.
Mm-hmm. And it's a choice. It's a choice. We get to choose it. Even if things are unresolved, incomplete, you're working through it, you're in a big transformation, it's how we energetically hold it on the inside and the choices we make through it. We can keep choosing our self-expression and to not stifle it through our growth, and keep learning to reframe how we hold it. How you relate to the issue is the issue.
Yes. The obstacle is the way. I think that is something I've been learning, is just how to meet every moment and challenge an obstacle with more grace, and like, this is the ride. You know, and like once we've been to rock bottom places, maybe even a couple times, it's like, well, we've made it through those spaces and I'm just going to keep making it. And like, I actually had a breakthrough recently on a little tour in Oregon. Um, my van broke, like overheated, and my dad just helped me rebuild the engine. And I've had a lot of breakdowns. I feel like my car and like breaking down on the side of the road has been like a metaphor for like my life and my body, and like, oh, I'm not taking care of myself, and like it's actually been an awareness learning, like, well, you got to check the oil and you got to check the tire pressure and all of these things, like kind of how I have to take care of myself, like all of these things that we need to do for our self-care and self-love to keep our motor running, keep our vehicle going, and for longevity and not just burning out, which I have been there a lot of times. And so, yeah, so it overheated, and it was in the moment where like I could have been like, oh my God, am I going to have enough money to like get back home? Am I going to like, how much is it going to be? Am I going to be stranded? Like all of the things that start spiraling out. And it was just a moment where I could be like in the observer seat and the witness and be like, okay, it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful sunny day. I'm here. I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to drive 13 miles and like go get some antifreeze and just like keep it coasting and keep breathing, and I was so exhausted from just like driving. I went to a wedding and I was just like trying to keep it together. But it was a good moment for me to realize like, okay, it's so easy for us. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe women, I feel like women, our nervous systems are particularly like affected. I don't know if that's like a true statement, but I feel like it's easy for us to like react and like get into fear spirals, and like we're so we can get out of our body. And so everything ended up working out and I was just able to respond, but so many of us who've been through, traumatic situations, and that's like the life that we've known, and like it's in our body, it's our cellular memory. That's what we've known. And then, life keeps giving us opportunities to like reface that trauma in some kind of way. And that's why embodiment work is so incredible right now. Whenever it's a buzzword, and maybe some people are like overusing it, but like the root of it is so powerful. Like we can't just talk about it anymore. Like you said, Trish, it's like, it's time to live it. Our whole value system is being revolutionized. Like the whole system is crashing. Some of us knew this was going to happen. Like it's time to rewrite the programs, and walk the talk and embody it. And that's something, my dad he was an activist in the 60s, and he still is. And he, what I've noticed is like in the 60s, it was like everyone's on the street, right? And like so many protests, and like they had to really like break through the barrier and like crash the systems in all kind of ways. And I feel like movements are always evolving, right? And I feel like we're in the next evolution of the movement where we're going into the heart and the soul. And I feel like, we can't just be on the street protesting and trying to stand up for things if we're not inside doing the work and standing up on the street inside of our own wounded hearts, because that's what like traumatized people are traumatizing people and destroying the earth. That's what it feels like. So I'm really passionate about that inner work. And sometimes it maybe feels like futile. Oh, I'm just like writing a little song over here, like do. But it's so big and so profound, because this it's like when you throw a rock into the pond and like the ripples out. Everything is vibration. Everything is sound. And so every thought that we think is rippling out and touching everything and everyone. And it's like we now have to be the gatekeepers of our frequency. And these are old programs that are running. And if we can just step outside and realize, is that really me? Is that really who I am? Or is that society getting into me? Or is that someone else's voice? Like, what is the truth of who we are? And that's where music can be so beautiful, to connect to that. Went on a little rampage there.
I don't think that's a rampage. I think this is just, but the whole premise of
Morning
the show,
mantra is working.
the whole premise of the show is to allow people to get to know who you are, right? To know your magic and your work, and also to know who you are. So that's why we don't make it an interview, because interview questions are very like, we want to know your values, your heart, what lights you up, and about the topic, you know. And it helps everyone understand, including me. I'm speaking for myself. It helps me understand that how to come to more self-expression. And some people, like, I'm feeling called to share that, some people's self-expression is going to go exactly against ours. Some people are going to be completely like, I think you're lame and you're wrong and whatever, whatever, whatever. And that's just going to be their fullest self-expression based on the strategies that they've cultivated to get their needs met through their values. Right. And in some part of it, like to feel confident enough to live your self-expression regardless of the people who might potentially not share those same views with you, but to also show up in humanization, to show up humanizing them, or choosing to be like, oh, you have a different belief than me. Still love you, and choose to dissolve those barriers, or otherness, or othering, or degrading beliefs, or what people are fighting for. So there's a lot of, yes, showing up in the inner work. I love that you shared that. It's like we're addressing something outward, but that lives inside of us. Like we're all programmed in some way, conditioned to believe in certain things in our society, in our world, collective consciousness.
Yeah. And something you said, something that I noticed is like, been writing for so many years, and a lot of it in the beginning was just really dark stuff. And I think if you continue with the process, I mean, I don't know, maybe you'd have to like do a study of this, but eventually, like if you do it enough and you start to just really witness what are you writing and like what is coming out, I think eventually you can get to the source of, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, that is the truth, and that we all have connection to that, and maybe there is a oneness in that if we can follow that stream and like just like keep continuing to cut off the layers that aren't really who we are and what we are trying to express. And like our word is literally our wand, and like words is swords backwards, and it's like spelling is, once we like connect to that, it's like there's the messages and the magic everywhere. And yeah, I think we all have that connection to source, and sometimes we just have to keep stripping away those layers. And we do have different belief systems, but I do wonder, is like, well, I wonder if we all got to our own source, would it be integral and just we'd be on the same page? And and that most, like, if we just undermine, like break through the trauma.
What I find in my coaching practice is that it's purely like, most people want connection, belonging, and safety. And there's strategies to get those things met that are different. Both sides of the political spectrum right now want the same thing.
Right.
And it's phenomenal just to watch the strategies clash.
Yeah.
Like, what we do is we argue about strategies. We're arguing about the strategies to get my need for whatever met, or that's what clashes. We're actually coming back to, like, if you can get under that, that's where the juice of intimacy lives. You know,
Yes.
under that strategy, the vulnerability piece.
Thank you for that. That's so beautiful what you just said about the vulnerability, because it's really to remember that we are all source. We are all connected as one. We're sharing in the loving. We're having one big relationship with self. So there is no separation, but our ego can buy into the misidentification or thought process that we're alone on our island. And it's when we really start to view someone through the eyes or lens of that they're separate from us, they have different belief structures, they're completely different. It's like paying attention to what their ego is saying, what their behaviors are, what their thoughts and feelings. And that's where we can feel that sense of separation. But the moment we leverage and move into the heart and say, I'm going to be willing to say right now to tune into the love inside of you, and hear with the ear of my heart love. I'm not going to hear from a place of disconnect. I'm going to hear with the ear of my heart, and I'm going to see the loving inside of you. No matter who they are, no matter what walk of life they are, no matter what race, color, sex, story, doesn't matter. But this is the bridge that can connect us all back to a place of connection if we're willing to see with the eyes of love and hear with the heart of love. No matter what is going on. And it can really help one really lay down the need to pay attention to their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Yes, that is important to acknowledge someone's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, but we're so much more than our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. We're consciousness. And consciousness is asking us to connect at a very super connected, conscious level.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's
where it takes place.
That's what?
That's where the learning takes place. Then there's connection. Then there's vulnerability. Then there's seeing, oh wow, I really understand your side. It's actually not different from mine.
Right.
Choosing curiosity.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, like I think we get really caught up in words and defining and definitions, like we have all agreed that a cup is a cup, but what is it really? And a knife is a knife, and like right and left, and like, who are you? Are you your hair? Are you your body? Are you your, like, we're multi-dimensional, and it's only, I love that. Just like kind of getting back to the source of everything. And I think we're really being played by the media in a lot of ways. It's just weaponizing these structures and these differences to, divide and conquer. And I love that curiosity. We have to stay curious. There's one more thing I wanted to say that you sparked on. There's a song that came to me. Well, it started as a poem. I choose to see you with new eyes every day because I know that, like me, you are amorphous and free. And that to me is like, we've all been hurt by people, and we've all probably hurt someone. And something I've realized is like how we can keep people actually through our lens in a container of like, they're still who they are. They're still that, like, bad person. And that, like, I think it's important for all of us to re-see ourselves and other people, to get, and I want other people to give me up, to see me in new lights. And I think in these ways we can help each other heal and step into our highest. And there's ways with our words that we can keep each other down, we can keep ourselves down, or we can actually speak ourselves into higher spaces in each other and the world. And even like when we talk about, we were just hanging out with a native elder, and this gathering I went to was a dance called Soul Movement, and someone called me out. His one of his friends that like hangs out with him, and kind of just called me out for like talking about the world and like how like the oppression, and like almost like I'm speaking into it. I'm like giving it power.
Mm.
And in these moments when we have these like containers and like little gatherings that are like really intentional, it's like everything falls away, you know, like when we have those festival moments, or we're like in a workshop and it's like in this moment we're in this like nowness, and it's like that world doesn't exist. I think we have to stop giving that stuff power in our lives, and yeah, and empower each other and empower ourselves.
Oh, you're on mute.
Awesome. I love that. And I totally agree. The question that it brings up for me is that how do we talk about like massive groups of people not having the same experience that we are? How do we talk about those issues without talking about using some specific languaging? And that's I taught at Soul Play this year, and Soul Play they literally centered teachers of color. They literally centered unpacking privilege as classes in an embodiment and open floor or five rhythms or ecstatic dance kind of community. They were like, hey, if we want to be more loving, we have to do that inner work. So it's like finding that balance of bringing curiosity from other person and other people's perspectives and their lived experience, and being able to communicate that to other people, because I don't have the same experience as my Black friends who live in Oakland, or my Black friends who live in Montana, which have a very different experience than my Black friends that live in Oakland, right? And I don't have that experience at all. That doesn't mean that their experience is not valid or that's not part of reality. But that's totally part of the reality that we have. And to share about, so with some of my very wealthy white male friends who don't have the experience that I have of carrying my keys at night because some guy's walking towards me and he's like, nice ass, and like talking about what do you want, like crazy stuff that I hear all the time. Like he never has that experience. So being able to share, like I'd love to talk a little bit about how to do that line, how to walk that line, because that's my lived experience. It's to have stalkers, to have people that do these things. And I'm getting more and more clear about my boundaries, right? And, people who are upgrading their lives and are also getting more and more clear about their boundaries. But how do we talk about all of these things without getting shut down, like, oh, you're not using positive languaging and you're speaking into the world? Like, how do we not degrade the live experience, but also share about it in that way too?
Using the phrase "up until now," because you can speak about the past. Up until now, it was ... this way, but I'm affirming now that it's a shift, and this is the shift that's creating, because you're owning your empowerment by saying that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a victim programming too in our society.
Mm-hmm.
People are profiting off of our victimhood.
I know that.
It's so crazy. And yeah, I think, yeah, it's
that's falling away. We're all teaching how to be empowered, fully empowered.
Yes. Yeah, but no, it's very true, Trish. Like there's a curiosity around it, and we have to speak to it. I don't know. I'm here with all of you learning.
Yeah, it's Earth School is happening. Here we are.
Yeah, I think we have to come. Oh yeah, go ahead.
what I'm afraid of is that afraid is not really the right word. What I'm aware of is that a lot of people are uncomfortable with the being with another person's discomfort.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, so sometimes I find my very loving, awesome white hippie friends are uncomfortable with talking about how little black babies were used as gator bait. That's what that term came from. Like they're and they're like, oh, we're talking, why are we talking about that? Because we're speaking into the universe. And I'm like, well, but up until now, that's the truth. And that creates generational trauma that they can't be fully expressed because they're terrified to, like, just genetically terrified. So it's like, how do we speak to these things without creating a victim conversation, but empowering everyone? How do I use my power and privilege to bring people up? And how do I speak to that? How do I, without having someone be like, it's uncomfortable to talk about that? And that's what I'm conscious of, is that a lot of my friends are uncomfortable talking about it because they have to be empathetic and drop into the moment of what that could look like for them or their family. And historically, like, it's deeply uncomfortable work, right? Is to be with empathy. Like I often empathize or actually embody both sides of a political or a hot news thing, like something that's coming up. I often sit with that in meditation. It's like, how can I become this person and empathize with them deeply? How can I be that person? How can I be the other side? How can I be, these dueling places and find compassion in the center? Right? Again, it's through curiosity. It's through acknowledging that, like, the past, there's something about acknowledgement or taking accountability, not necessarily like responsibility, but the accountability piece of, like, if I hurt you, Alyra, I don't get the choice to say, oh, I didn't hurt you. You're hurt. Like, that's your experience. Now, what I do with it is my choice, how I show up to you. And I think that that's part of the system that's shifting. That's part of the way that we're learning to communicate more lovingly. If I, mess up and Dawn's like, you messed up, and I'm like, oh no, that's gaslighting, right? I'm like, oh no, I didn't mess up. Like, it's in my eye integrity. But she's like, okay, it hurts here. This is what happened for me. Now I could go just like, no, I don't want to talk to her about it. Or I could be like, wow, I'm curious about your lived experience. I'm curious about the impact that it had on you, your family, the way that you showed up for your clients. Like, I think that that's one of the pieces that we're coming to, is like just acknowledging the impact of people that I don't even know. Like, my family was pretty abusive, like, historically. I could probably track down the people they were abusive to and say, hey, and heal that or transform that tether, that energetic spiritual tether, not only in their bloodline, but in their, ancestral spiritual line. How powerful would that be? And I think that's part of the reason why I like to talk about it, is like, wow, those places, I don't want them to stay in victimhood. I want them to be able to, like, empower themselves. I want them to be their artistic, full expressed self.
It's really leaning into healing the intergenerational patterns we have come to heal through, because every family has intergenerational patterns. They might be trauma based, they might be, it's so radically different for each family unit, but the family you're born into and the family you're raised by is so integral to your personal story and your purpose work. You carry what is called an entelechy, and that is like an acorn to an acorn tree. That is, the entelechy of the acorn knows it is going to grow up and be a beautiful oak tree someday. And just like that oak tree, you're born into your curriculum knowing you have a perfect map and entelechy that you carry inside. Your soul knows it, and nothing can stop you from it. Even though there might be crazy challenges that arise, but it's all interwoven through intergenerational patterning and learning how to dissolve it and step free from it. And that's our own personal liberation journey. And it looks different for every soul, but we all share in the same journey of freeing ourselves in ways so that we can be fully expressed. The soul can be fully expressed. And it's so powerful to know that. And that's what bonds us together in our humaning, is to really give us the freedom to say, wow, your journey is so powerful and I'm here for you. And I learned so much from your experience. Thank you. Like, mind blowing. And you know that I'm just going to be vulnerable and share like what is up for me. Like I'm in my first, group program. I'm in the middle of it right now. And I played a powerful song and I just had this wave of like come over me when the women were doing their silent journal writing. And I just had this full on experience, visceral experience come over me of feeling like so grateful and humbled by how much work I've poured into myself, of just being so devoted to the learning and so devoted to laying down the patterns and so devoted to the higher self, to it fully expressed, no matter how uncomfortable it was. And I've been through a lot of uncomfortableness, like on the riding the edge of uncomfortable for many years now. And getting comfortable with the uncomfortable to make the breakthrough. And my dad's death was all involved. It was like a soul line completion between us, and he was my abuser in my lifetime. And at the same time, that role he chose to play was also setting me up for success in my life, to be the hero of my own journey. And that he was just playing a role all along, just freaking mind-blowing to arrive at. And just the depth of compassion. And this morning, I was struck with just utter compassion and love, and I just was sobbing in gratitude in my experience yesterday. And I woke up to a dream that my dad was actually communicating to me in my dream last night, saying to me, he was in his like work suit and he had his little work hat on. He worked at an oil refinery. And he looked at a younger version of himself way earlier, and he said to me, I'm going to be retiring. And I took that to mean he's moving on. He's transitioning onto another plane of existence. And I don't know what that means. And I know I'm connected always. But I had this sense of overwhelming feeling of like a greater completion going on in our family karmic dharmic story. And I woke up today and shared it with my husband and was just like, wow, Dad just communicated to me last night. Isn't that awesome?
That's beautiful.
And so I if you're struggling with any intergenerational pattern and you've acknowledged that it's a pattern, just keep working it, keep being brave, keep reaching out for support, reach out for a lifeline. You have the answers within and you will make it through. Like, I'm a testament. My life is a testament to, if you stay devoted, no matter how hard it is, it can crack the code. You will crack the code, and you will stand in your empowerment, and you will shine.
I love that. Yeah, I think we're all flowers, right? We all have that encoding, like you said. What did you call it? An entelechy?
Entelechy.
That's so cool. And I love that, trusting that we have the information, and that, we're taught to just look outside of ourselves so much, and there's so much confusion. And that's why I feel like coming back to the creative process is really powerful, of like being willing to feel all your emotions and give voice to them and let them like follow them and watch it transform. And Brene Brown has been really inspiring for me, of like vulnerability as courage. Because like, as I'm a Cancer sun sign, but I feel like what?
Happy birthday.
Oh yeah, almost. Thanks. I feel very sensitive, but in some way, for so long, I have learned to shut down and not be vulnerable. And like now, I'm like, it's like I've been vulnerable in my music, in my creative process. Now it's like, okay, well, now I need to freaking be vulnerable in my life with my relationships, and how can I use that creative process to not just create a pretty song, but actually, yeah, like live that in the world. And like I used to like write songs to like people and I'd be like, I wasn't like sharing my actual emotions with, or like how I really felt with people, and realizing, well, I just wrote you a song. You don't get what I wrote. It's just so silly. We're all on our different journeys, but just really understanding, like, how do we take our raw vulnerability and authenticity and really express that in all avenues. And yeah, I think we need to give voice to all the hurt, in all walks of life and all our different lenses, and hold space for each other and alchemize these experiences. And really underneath it all is love and source. Like you said, it's like when we're angry, really there's like sadness under there, it's like levels. And like I struggle with resentment a lot because I'm not speaking to things in the moment, and and then the time goes on and it builds up. And learn, yeah, just like having these tools to be vulnerable and have boundaries. Brene talks about that. I love that, as like boundaries are actually so loving. And yeah, because you know how to love yourself, right? You're like, well, and then if you know like how to love yourself, then you can show up for others. And yeah.
I think that I love this boundaries conversation, because I think that boundaries are a place where, again, you probably heard, boundaries are the place where you can love yourself and the other person at the same time. And I also think that it really shows up in, people will keep pushing. It's a natural inclination. I'm really not sure. It just is. And until you set boundaries, which is the way that you will behave with the world. So I don't set a boundary that makes Dawn do whatever, like to change her behavior. It's the boundaries are the proximity at which I can love her and be close to her energy or herness. So if I'm having a conflict, it's how do I protect myself, my nervous system, my, how close am I willing to get? If I know that this person is going to continuously do this thing, am I going to pretend like they're not going to be that person? No. I'm just going to love them there. I'm like, oh, you're going to do this thing. So I know that I get to take a step back when I get to take a step back. And just to say, Dawn and my relationship is amazing, and it's one of the most working relationships that I have. It's not like it's easy to have someone kind of relatable when you have an experience or an example. It's like, if I'm doing this with this person, and to really like that boundary piece, I think we're all learning how to honor ourselves. We're all learning how to make self-honoring choices. We're all learning how to not behave out of obligatory choice, or not choice. We're not behaving out of obligation anymore. And we're learning those things. It's like, if I'm choosing to live from obligation, then I'm choosing to create resentment, instead of saying, man, I don't want to do that. There's other things I kind of want to do that's, I know, like somewhere touching that thing, but I don't really want to do that. And if you're going to take it as me not being loving to you, you either get obligation that I do the thing and resentment, or you get a different reality with me. Your choice. And that's what I mean. Like, negotiating reality is a very loving place to be. right? It's like, hey,
Mhm.
I don't want to cut your lawn, but you with it. Like, I don't want to do it myself, but I'll help you with it. Or maybe we can have a party and it'll be pizza and there will be multiple people cutting your lawn. It's like there's we're finding new ways to negotiate, and we're finding new ways to look at the world by what you said, honoring the pain, honoring the past, honoring what's really alive and the deep desires and the wants and longings that are here. Like we're learning how to cultivate a new world.
Yes.
It's one of the classes that I teach. I have a 3-part class that's cultivating a new world, which teaches people to communicate those things, like to communicate their wants, needs, and values, to align with that,
Oh,
to
yeah.
think about other people abandoning themselves, to learn how to trust themselves. Like there's things that we're learning how to do as we communicate the pain, as we sit with each other. Like when Dawn calls me and she's upset, or when I call her and I'm upset, it's never, oh, I mean, it may be like, hey, I don't have the time right this moment, but I want to sit with your pain with you. And that is what we're doing. Is we're no longer pushing like you got to deal with your pain by yourself. We're like, hey, I see your pain. We can get through this together.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
that is this place of a new world, which allows for self-expression. Like y'all are crazy, including myself. Well, we're all crazy, you know? And to be like, I like your crazy. Turn it
Mhm.
up. Turn up that crazy. Yourself.
Right? Yeah. And I think there's this way that we're something big that's coming up for me is like such a doer, and like even as a woman in our modern world, like we have to wear so many hats, and I feel like it's hard. I feel like I'm learning how to be a woman actually again. Just so weird. But like what does it mean to be a woman and be in that yin and that femininity, and like not be like overly in my masculine and doing and like and finding the balance so I can create space for my creative process and like the muses and like to receive those messages. And a dear friend right now is like going through such a hard time, and they're just working so hard, and like we just had a grief circle, and I'm like, this is actually mental health care when people that love you show up in a circle, and we allow you to give voice to what you're feeling, and we all shine back to you how beautiful, how loved you are. Like that is what we need. Actually, I'm realizing like I need more grief circles in my life. Is like I do that work on my own with my music, but like let's hold that for each other, because our mental, yeah, like I'm just so frustrated with our whole healthcare system, as many of us probably are. We're taking it into our own hands. We need to like start our own world with doctors, our own gynecologists. I'm like, I don't have any more faith in this system that's just dying over here. Like we women used to be the witches and the doctors and the gynecologists, and like we had that. We know that. I'm going off on a tangent, but um,
I feel you here. That yes, I'm with you.
I don't know where I was going, but
Just to say
yeah.
something to the grief moment is that festival that I told you about. They had one of like they held a grief ceremony for all of us. The grieving of
Mm.
what is shifting, the grief of ancestral. I mean, like it was wild and powerful and amazing. I got to hold space for the mourning piece, for deep sadness, and we do need community-based activities where we grieve, where we honor people's anger and their sadness and their frustration and their full aliveness. And that's
Yeah.
because again, the strategies for her to get our needs met are all crazy.
And there's so much power in those emotions, in that sadness and like shadow work. Like I feel like I naturally found my way to shadow work through the creative process, and like looking back, it's like, oh, that's shadow work actually. And there's so like, yeah, there's so much energy in that. In even like our even like our positive attributes that we don't give voice to, like can get pressed down in that shadow self. And yeah, there's so much energy in there if we give it a voice, and then it can transform from there.
Radical self-expression for the win. When we stop judging each other for our general natural selves. Like,
Some more healing circles.
yes. Don, do you have anything to share about all that?
Oh, I absolutely feel the same way. I really want to be more of an advocate inside in the actual community, participating in community and creating circles. And so, yeah, let's collaborate behind the scenes and see if we can create something. I'm so supportive of it. I want to bring more spiritual psychology practices into the actual physical, for people. So it's something, it's a burning yearning. I've been fully cultivating, focusing online, and now that that's like going and it's happening, I really want to actually bridge the gap now back into community too, and start doing some in-person things as well, because we need that. Our community needs that. And I really resonate with what you're saying, because there's a lot of grieving going on and we need it. The community needs it because there's so much transformation taking place on the earth. It's how we actually transform, is to feel all the feelings.
Mm-hmm. And I think, and then like repatterning too. And like part of it is like acknowledging the old belief systems, right? And something I've been doing lately is just like when I notice that belief system in my body, I like really kind of actively like releasing and like relaxing my root. For me, like, financial stress has been something I've dealt with, and just like kind of reframing it and like having a little mantra. And that's where I think, like, if you think about music and songs that we used to listen to when we were younger, like how easily they came into our brain. And like, you probably still remember what, like, the songs that you listened to when you were so much younger. Like for me, I was like, I knew all the words to the Freaks of the Industry and like these, and like, what else? I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me? And just recognizing like how that's playing, and that can be a mantra. So how do we take the power back with words and like reframe these things, and like, what is it that you're working on? Like, from there's not enough for me, scarcity, to like, I am held by the universe, and like creating a song from that, and like, feeling that in your body, in your cells. And yeah.
Speaking of song, do you want to share with us a medicine song that you designed?
I would love to. I'm trying to think what song I want to. All right, I'm going to share this song called Initiation that I wrote a couple years ago. After going to Standing Rock, and it kind of rocked my world, on a personal level and a collective level, and it felt like an initiation. And I feel like we've all been through a lot of initiations in life, and we're on like a collective initiation right now. Thank you again for having me on this awesome show. I love what y'all are doing. Found yourself in a house of mirrors, trying to remember how you got there. You have reached the edge of separation. All you knew falling down around you like puzzle pieces you never needed. So you feed into the fire, watch as the flames grow higher. I am not afraid, I will walk into the fire with my hands above my head. I will make the flames grow. I am not afraid, I will walk into the fire with my hands above my head. I'll make the flames grow higher, 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 higher. Came upon the wings of a cold wind initiation. The nights of uncertainty, struggling initiation. All you wanna do is tear off your skin and throw it to the wind. Throw it to the wind, throw it to the wind, yeah. Hey, hey, hey. Throw it to the wind, throw it to the wind, yeah. Hey, 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 hey. I was born for this, so I learned to welcome it. Like a blade to the skin of my memories, I choose wisely. In the end, we are the ones that weave the tapestry. So take what you need and leave the rest behind. Take the needle and the thread and sew with the vision of intention. Discretion is advised, keep your eyes open wide. Every prick of the needle you bleed just a little bit more, a little bit more. It came upon the wings of a cold wind initiation. The nights of uncertainty and struggling initiation. All you wanna do is tear off your skin and throw it to the wind. Throw it to the wind, throw it to the wind, yeah. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, oh. I was born for this, so I learned to welcome it. Like a blade to the skin of my memories, I choose wisely. In the end, we are the ones that weave the tapestry. I was born for this, so I learned to welcome it. Like a blade to the skin of my memories, I choose wisely. In the end, we are the ones that weave the tapestry. Ooh, ooh. Found yourself in a house of mirrors. Thank you.
Beautiful. What a gorgeous song. Love it.
Thank you.
Love the work you're doing in the world. It's beautiful to see you thriving through it all, evolving, changing. I'm just so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. And you too. It feels like now's the time to shine and just bring what is inside of us out and like really sing. We're like singing for our lives and making art for our lives and creating for our lives and for the world to keep going. and yeah, when we connect to that piece, like I know it's easy to get caught on the spectrum of the ego of like being too shy or too full, too much. But I think when we kind of lean back and remember like, well, this is an offering. The stage is actually an altar, I think is what it used to be, not what society and mainstream music really makes music out to be. It's like, it's so much really far from that. So like reclaiming like this is an offering for everyone and what you do, what everyone does is creativity in a way, you know, and like it's an offering and that's so beautiful when we get out of the way and our heart and our soul. It's a journey.
Yes.
Would you like to share a little bit more about your practice and what you offer in the world?
Sure. Is it okay that we're going over? I don't know what you
Totally.
Okay. My practice, my personal practice, or just like what I'm doing in the world, or
What you offer in the world. I'm your
yes.
Patreon, Instagram.
Yeah, so I just launched my Patreon, and I'm creating more workshops, and I just started working one-on-one with people to kind of be a creative space holder for anyone that wants to explore their voice and lyricism. I love writing and like transforming emotions through creativity, and working on with my sisters Gina Renee and Sarita. We're going to be offering a retreat in the fall, which I'm super excited about, at this this beautiful land called Gayatri, and they have farm to table meals, and that's what I'm really passionate about, bringing like the embodiment work, and then also connecting to places that are really living it. Like they're like kind of a sustainable retreat center, and they're like, the people work the land, they work so hard, and they're just making the best food. I'm a foodie. So yeah, doing yoga and movement and body embodiment, dancing. My girlfriend's going to teach some dancing. So it's like all the levels, not just the creativity, but the embodiment, the dancing, the food, and like remembering like how to live in nature, in our own nature. And I'm really excited about that. Yeah. So one-on-one with people, workshops, retreats.
What does working one-on-one with you look like?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of tailored to everyone, what their intention is with where they are in their voice and their practice. But doing embodiment practice, I'll do, some visualization embodiment work, and learning how to write songs, maybe taking like old belief systems and like how to reframe them, and maybe write your own mantra, maybe write your own song. Or if you just want to like work on your voice, even, or like singing together and just like breathing and strengthening your voice and your confidence and connecting to your muses, and how to do that. And
Gorgeous.
yeah, it's still new for me, but I'm really excited about it. And yeah.
I've added all of your links so you can find more of Alyra Rose on Patreon, as well as Instagram, Alyra Rose Music. Oh, get it off. Music. Is it Music Cat?
Yes, that's me. I have had a couple Instagrams, but that's the one I use.
You can also find this beautiful songstress on Spotify. So that link is in there as well.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So many offerings. Keep me
How about
posted
you?
on the retreat. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Really beautiful what you're doing in the world.
Yes.
I want to praise her for a moment. I just want to really acknowledge you, Alyra, for your beauty, your grace, your talent. You're very talented musically, and I really encourage you to just keep going with it, because you're giving others permission to really explore in a place that, healing through song and through music is so, it's done for centuries on the earth. And so you're speaking a language into a place where there's so much healing taking place with music. And so it's powerful. I'm married to an artist and a musician, so I understand what that's like and how potent it can be. And so it's so good. The offering is juicy and delicious.
Thank you. It's been a long journey, actually, trusting myself and believing in myself, and
I
like
understand.
all of us, I'm sure. And yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so excited for all the people you serve and your retreats, and so good. It's so good. So many good things happen.
Maybe we'll collaborate.
Yeah. let's talk about it. I'm so open.
Yeah, it feels like those are really juicy containers for like some really deep work right now.
Definitely. Well, speaking of deep work, I really want to speak into the woman out there. If you are a beautiful woman who has either been in a long-term relationship or had multiple long-term relationships or monogamous, I mean, even not monogamous, it's just wanting to explore the deeper curriculum that has been at play where you notice patterns playing out and that you can't seem to overcome them, and it's creating a sense of like where you felt out of balance in your partnership or your marriage or relationships period, and you're really like, what is this? And I'm ready to really finally crack the code on this. So I'm going to be doing a free challenge again, 4-day challenge, August 15th through the 18th. It's the Sovereign Queen Challenge. You're going to come and learn. Number one, first day is learning how and why our spiritual curriculum creates the dynamics we are creating in our relationships and what those barriers really are and how to really overcome them. So that's day one. There's going to be so many juicy things that you learn through the experience, and also how to reclaim your inner queen. That also takes place within the 4-day challenge. There's a lot of impactful content in the 4 days. You get activations every single day, plus gifts and amazing opportunities to win beautiful prizes, and even one beautiful sister winning a full ride into my program, which is 9 weeks, Unleash Your Sovereign Queen. So I'm in one group container right now and leading that and to its completion, and we'll be doing another, opening the doors to another beautiful experience soon. But the 4-day challenge is free, and it's an amazing opportunity to learn more about your personal curriculum and how to break through. So love to have you participate. Share the message out with all your sisters. This is a free opportunity for beautiful women to come in and be a part of. So Trisha,
And that's
August 15th.
That's August.
Okay. Yeah, August 15th through the 18th. Yeah, so sign up.
Woo!
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited about both your work in the world, and totally fangirling. Thank you so much, Alyra, for your time, your energy, and your heart space today. Thank you for showing up in your feisty, in your activism and your love. Donna, I love you so much. I'm so grateful to not only be in the container, the Sovereign Queen container, but also just have aligned my life with you. I won. So I want to give a big shout out and a thanks to Scott Thomas, Love Coach Academy, Sign Network, and Global Peace Tribe for really investing in the Self-Love Show and investing in us. And, you know, their amazing work in the world for networking and, you know, all the things that you all do to make the world a better place. Sending so much love. And next week, we'll be right here, same place, same time, just a week later. So join us.
Don't forget about the YouTube channel. Go like, share, and subscribe. And also, if you wouldn't mind, like the actual videos on Facebook. That helps our algorithm so much. So if you like it and you love it, share it, like it, heart it. Please, 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 because spreading the message of self-love is so important.
All right. Thank you.
Thank